I just finished reading Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. It's a big one. It was billed as a parallel to Game of Thrones, not set in England, but in China. And there is some fairness to that comparison. Game of Thrones was based on the War of Roses, and Grace of Kings is based on the Chu Han struggles in Chinese history. But I don't think Grace of Kings really did the story justice the way Game of Thrones did. Game of Thrones added so many dimensions to the story. Instead of just the Tudors with a dragon as their banner, George Martin created the dragon controllers. They had actual dragons. They added to that fantasy world. Instead of the wild Scots in the north, he created this wall and wild people that climb over the ice wall that had to be defended. And don't forget the food that he described. George Martin took the history, created characters who took on lives of their own, and fleshed out a world so convincing I believed he'd been there. In contrast, Grace of Kings is just a sweeping story narrating the historical events. There are some very lovely moments of character development, but the story is written more like a well-written history text, a very interesting one, with some dialogue. There are Chinese elements scattered through that give the world texture, but in my opinion, they could have been expanded more. The 3 books in the series, for example, could have been expanded to 6, which would have given the author room to flesh out the world and the magic and the characters so that readers could experience the story along with them. As it is, we jump between multiple characters but don't really get into their heads. But having said this, it was an engaging read. I enjoyed the story, but I just didn't feel the connection with characters that would inspire me to want to read the sequel. But still, I'm intrigued enough that I just might pick it up.